Salute and good evening to everyone in the building in this Tuesday evening Falcon Blizzak live stream. To just get straight to the point, we need to talk about racism within the National Health Service. That is the NHS here in the UK. This is a service that the British citizens pay via national insurance contributions to keep running. Okay, and I find that it's an opportune time to discuss the NHS because right over here in the UK, if you from abroad, there are loads of strikes going on with the health services with regards to pay. So the NHS is in the firing line to some regard. Okay, so I think that this issue is very pertinent to the time, and it's also very important. Right, it won't be the most popular stream, but it's something that I'm quite passionate about. Okay, this is health. Right. So in this stream, we want to ask if Black people in the UK do indeed face racism within the NHS in the form of being, given inferior treatment in terms of not being listened to, perhaps, or not being taken seriously as patients, but also we want to see if Black medical professionals are being discriminated against, if they're not being promoted into senior positions, for example. So I'm going to present some stats as well in relation to ethnicity in the NHS. I got a story to speak about. It's related to this idea of being mistreated. I was about 27, 28. I believe it was one fine spring weekend morning. I think I was chilling in the bed and I was buck naked. Right? And I just realized that I happened to have a lump on one testicle. So obviously in that situation, there's an exclamation point above your head like, oh, damn, this is, I'm going to die. This is cancer, right? And I'm very obviously sensitive to such cancers because a few years prior to that, my father passed from prostate cancer. So naturally, I'm on edge with regards to anything cancer related down in the nether regions. So as soon as I could, I went down to my local GP, which was just down the road. It was a brand new building, a new GP, new service in the neighborhood. Everything was new. The staff was new. The team all new, right? So I expected the most, I guess. And then when I went to this doctor, to this GP, I met this female doctor, right? Who just so happened to be a white woman. It's a usual kind of situation, right? And then I mentioned I had this lump, right? And I also mentioned that I have a family history with prostate cancer, right? But so basically I was, I guess, asking her to check if these conditions are actually what I fear they are to be, right? But she wasn't having it. She was doing everything she could to kind of shoo me away. First of all, she said that testicular cancer, which is what I was fearing it was, is very rare for Black men to have, and she was right about that. And I'm gonna, in fact, let me bring it up. She said that testicular cancer is very rare for Black men to have, and she also said that prostate cancer is mainly for older men to be worried about, right? So she's basically saying, nope, you don't need to be checked. You know, I don't want to check you, and yeah, that's it. You know. So she's right. I mean, these are some stats for testicular cancer. Um, Survival rate's quite high at 95%. In 2011, 2,200 were diagnosed. These were obviously all men in the UK, testicular cancer. But most crucially for me, I guess, testicular cancer is generally quite rare in non-Caucasian populations worldwide, right? So basically, white men are more at risk with testicular cancer, where, you know, the opposite for prostate cancer, black men are more at risk for that cancer developing, right? And at the time, I had a white friend back then who I told basically, you know, I have this issue, I'm nervous. What do you think? And he actually had testicular cancer, and um, he had one, he had one ball bag removed because of it, right? So he would know what it was, you know. But after seeing that doctor, basically, I knew what it was right from the very moment, right? Her face expression was just basically, I'm not really interested. I don't really want to check your issues. You know, I don't really want to, whatever they do to check these cancers, you know, I don't really want to go there tonight. I just want to, you know, get my lunch break and move on. And I think this is a common theme for many people, right? And this is what I want to understand as well, because I'm obviously it's going to be a call-in show. If anyone wants to come on, say their piece, because I think this is a common theme, and I'm going to read a few articles as well that seems to suggest that a lot of black people in the UK just feel like they're not being taken seriously with regards to their ailments, right? So yeah, you know, saw a lump, felt a lot of fear of it. You know, I don't know anyone else has been in a situation where you just think the worst, right? And you do all these Google searches and you just see the worst possible situations. And then, you know, you're just kind of gloomy from that moment on. And let me just say this anyway, you know, it's quite common to get certain lumps on the balls, on the scrotum, right? Let me see if I got something up for that. Salute to everyone in the building, by the way. I just want to jump straight into it. We can kind of chill in a sec. But I don't know if you guys know, but basically balls forming, sacks of liquid forming on the balls is quite common, right? And these are just a few of them. So you got epididymitis, right? Is where a tube at the back of the testicles becomes swollen and painful. It's often caused by an infection and is usually treated with antibiotics. You know, you got cysts. You know, this is a fluid-filled sac that grows in the epididymis. I'm trying to avoid saying that. A tube at the back of the testicles. It does not need treatment if it is small or causes no significant symptoms. If it needs treatment, usually surgery is needed to remove it. But again, it's not you know, obviously cancer, right? So there's all these various conditions where it's basically liquid based, right? It's not a tumor growing, right? But this is just a FYI, right? Obviously, go and get checked if you have any issue. But you know, continuing on from that story, you know, I was naive at that point. You know, I was very used to being healthy. You know, and I think a lot of us don't actually realize that we're paying for this service as well. So we tend to not feel like, oh, we're not gonna kick up a fuss, we're not gonna, you know, go crazy about these type of situations, or we kind of feel like, the doctor knows best, they are the professional, just trust the doctor, have faith in the doctor, right? So even with that doctor kind of just shoo me out, yeah, I just, okay, she's right. I should not worry, all of that. But then I think it was a few weeks later when I started to get a few kind of aches in that region as well, some dull aches. And that just again rose suspicion of something else happening. And again, those gloomy feelings like death is just around the corner. You're it's almost like you're making peace with the world, right? You've just, you've kind of confirmed that, yeah, this isn't good, this isn't normal, this is abnormal, right? So at that point, I just got very serious about it, just asserted myself on, I need this to be checked, right? I'm not having any other, decision being made. I need this to be checked. Someone needs to check this out. So shortly after kicking up a fuss, and this is a key point because it seems like in order to get the right attention, the right medical care, it's as if you need to be aggressive about it, right? So after that point, I got invited to an initial check to another place. So I was referred to another medical establishment. The doctor was actually a black man, right? And yes, he did indeed put on some rubber gloves, and he did indeed feel on my balls, right, as an initial inspection, And at that point, he said it wasn't cancer, and he said I had nothing to fear. So, he could tell by the texture, by the fact that it's soft, that it wasn't that, But he was also empathetic enough to get me checked, to get a scan booked for me, So then I went to the hospital to get a scan. This was a technician putting some scanning, equipment, checking it out properly. And even the technician, saw it in the form of, I guess it's an X-ray, and also confirmed the same thing, that no, it wasn't. It's obviously just fluid. So quite easily, all the gloomy tensions were solved from, the issue was solved, right? And it was confirmed that it was a cyst, a fluid buildup, something that's quite common, something that can be easily removed if you want it to, or if it's that big, etc. Right? And in knowing that, all the kind of apprehension just left. Right. But I think that story is a great example of being easily dismissed. Right. People not taking you seriously. Right. And this is why I'm super proactive when it comes to health. A lot of people like to be dismissive when it comes to alternative remedies, maybe herbs and stuff like that. And and just taking care of themselves, because you can't really, this is life and death. You can't put your life into the hands of other people and expect them to have the same level of care or empathy for your own health, right? Even if they are professionals. But anyway, man, I jumped in. Let me just see who's in the building. I know it's a quiet night, but salute to everyone in the building right now. First one in was Kuma. Salute to Kuma. He says the medical industry is racist in general. And he continues to say medical professionals are saying that black people have a higher pain threshold. I've heard about that. We're going to talk about similar instances. I actually got an article here about Serena Williams and her pregnancy that we got to talk about, because that pain threshold is usually in relation to giving birth, which is messed up. But salute to Kuma in the building. We got Sharian Allegiance, aka Sharian25, is actually in the back chat. Salute to you. I'm going to open it up in a bit. I just want to present a few things and then we can discuss what's on your mind. Links are pinned to the top of the chat. Links also in the video description. We've got JM Talks in the building. JM Talks channel in the building. Salute to you, bro. Good to have you in the building. We did a one-on-one on the weekend with regards to gaming. Check out that live stream out. Definitely interesting. And JM says, interesting topic. Yeah, it really is, man. It needs to be covered. Again, it's not a glamorous topic. It's not talking about, I don't know, Tinder and dating opportunities, right? So naturally, it won't have the same gravitas. All right. We've got someone called Right Reaction 77. Salute to you. Never seen you before. They say disparities doesn't equal racism. Black people lead unhealthier lifestyles. Plus, there are genetic differences that impact healthcare. That's a solid point. Salute to you and that point. And someone crept in with 4 PST. Just says hello. Hello to you. Salute. So we've got some people in the building. Salute to everyone in the building. Let's talk about Serena Williams. Let me bring up an article about Serena Williams, okay? Because it kind of aligns with the thumbnail, but I don't know. It's a quiet night, man. I need a beat to go with what I'm saying tonight. Yeah, let me just share this article. I'm going to go through this article. Let's see, which one is it? Okay, so surprisingly, Serena Williams, okay? This is about Serena Williams' pregnancy. Okay, and the headline, this is from BuzzFeed News. The headline was, Black people are 3 times more likely to die in childbirth. And Serena Williams' own experience gives a stark insight into how this happens. Serena told medical staffers that she needed a CAT scan and a heparin drip. A nurse told her, I think all this medicine is making you talk crazy. Oof. Okay, so, it's crazy. So, the patient is requesting medical care or attention and she's being refused. Okay, so let's continue. The star has been open about the life-threatening medical complications that she faced after childbirth, which forced her to have 4 back-to-back surgeries in the space of a week. Serena suffered several blood clots that could have killed her if she did not receive immediate treatment, but she has now revealed that she had to advocate for herself after medical staff has dismissed her concerns. In a new essay for Elle, Serena said that she was forced to have her own life, to save her own life, as she drew attention to the fact that, quote unquote, Black women are nearly 3 times more likely to die during or after childbirth than their white counterparts in the United States. I'm just curious, does anyone know why that might be? If anyone in the chat can kind of specify if that stat is true and why that might be. Why does it seem like Black women are more prone to complications during childbirth? It continues to say in the United Kingdom, Black women are more than 4 times as likely to die from pregnancy or childbirth related causes than white women. So yes, although the former was in the United States, there is also a stat for the UK. And I'm going to bring up some general NHS UK stats in this stream as well. In a new piece, Serena said that giving birth ended up being a test for how loud and how often I would have to call out before I was finally heard, as she shared concerning details from her time in the hospital. Okay, so that is the gist, right? And this is a common kind of talking point that women, I don't know, in labor, dealing with childbirth, don't seem to be given the same type of care or attention with regards to pain. Someone mentioned pain threshold. Kuma in the chat says, when I went to the dentist, he said that I had a higher pain threshold. So, you know, these statements signify some sort of racialized ideas that might actually bring harm to the patient. Right? So, you know, for me, I think, you know, some people might be very willing to kind of write this off. I don't know why, but I think some people might just be, I don't know, just not eager to accept certain things. And I want to say this, man, because, you know, I think a lot of people think in black or white terms when it comes to things like racism. You know, some people want to completely dismiss racism, and then you got other people that want to live and breathe racism every day, right? But I operate in a gray area. Right? That, you know, if racist ideas exist, of course there is bound to be prejudice. You know? So it's very believable. It's very believable to kind of hear medical professionals saying certain things, right? Aligning with certain racialized ideas. For PST says it's dangerous to not focus on the real issues. Truth sets you free. And I hear what you're saying with regards to unhealthy eating. You know, we've done many streams about bad diets, you know, just traditionally unhealthy foods that, you know, a lot of people of African descent seem to align with, right? But that's one thing. We're now talking about the care given to some black patients, right? This has nothing to do with genetics. Like, we all kind of know, yes, people with different ethnicities are prone to different kind of ailments. You know, we know that there is a higher rate of diabetes, for example, in the black community. We know there's a higher obesity rate in the black community. We're not talking about that. We're talking about the care given, the attention given, right? And speaking of that, let's go into the black staff side of things, because apparently black NHS staff feel like they are being mistreated, and apparently there's a culture of racism as a working professional, right? So let me bring up this article just to, you know, bring it into the forefront. NHS racism shame. 1 in 3 black and minority ethnic staff face discrimination or bullying. This was an article in from this January. Okay. A third of black and ethnic minority health staff has suffered racism or bullying as the NHS fails to address systemic levels of discrimination, the Independent can reveal. Okay, levels of bullying and harassment of minority workers have not improved in the past 5 years, with almost 30% saying that they have been targeted in the past year, compared to 20% of white staff. Okay, So we're talking about typical kind of workplace bullying, I guess. Online raises a good point. Salute to you. He says, NHS racist or more the people who work in the NHS? Well, it is the people that will make the service, right? So it's probably one and the same thing, right? The people run the service. It's a service. So, you know, the organization will only be what the people make it to be, right? Despite being 1/4 of the workforce, minority ethnic staff make up just 10% of the most senior positions. The NHS's flagship report is set to reveal. So I guess we're talking about promotions to seniority. You know, that seems to be lacking in the NHS. I'm going to bring up some general stats as well, just to have some visibility on this. One nurse told The Independent she was forced to leave her job following a campaign of bullying, while another, who has left for the private sector, said her mental health was hugely impacted by the discrimination she experienced. Equality for Black Nurses, a membership organization founded by Naomi Bennett in 2020, has launched 200 cases of alleged racism against a number of NHS trusts since it was set up. Quote, racism is driving nurses out of the NHS, Miss Bennett told The Independent, warning that this issue had reached pandemic levels, quote unquote. I see day in and day out the effects of racial bullying and how this impacts nurses across the UK. Miss Bennett continued, the bullying of Black nurses has reached pandemic levels and goes unchallenged. She added that racism within the NHS was systematic and deeply embedded, and said structures within the organization allowed patterns of behavior to be repeated. I just want to get the general ambience in the chat, man. Press 1 if you believe, you know, if you think that this information or this kind of query is believable. Or press a 2 if you think it's being overblown. You know, people are just being quote unquote victims, and, you know, potentially all staff, regardless of ethnicity, is being treated in this manner. Maybe it's a culture of bullying in the NHS in general. Press a 1 if you believe in it, press 2 if you don't. Just curious. So the article continues, after raising concerns about discrimination, she said she was bullied and claims other staff warned her to stop speaking out. I felt my whole world crashing down like a big black hole that I just couldn't get out of. As the trust targeted me, it seemed like I was drowning continuously. That sounds quite animated, right? I couldn't breathe and just wanted everything to end. The nurse of 14 years told The Independent. Another nurse said she was left traumatized by bullying and harassment, and she was gaslighted by her employer. This incident is going to affect me for the rest of my life. When I first joined the NHS Trust, I thought I was going to retire there, but my career has been cut short and it's not fair. So, you know, there seems to be, you know, a culture of racism apparently in the NHS. I don't work for the NHS. I've never have, so I won't know. But like I said in my initial story, I do think that there is a culture potentially of mistreatment or undertreatment, right? So 2, I'm seeing 2s. People think that these stories or these claims are quite overblown. I'm seeing more 2s. I'm seeing 1.5 in between. If the NHS is really racist, wouldn't many Asians, Africans not stop working? That's a good point. With that being said, let's take a look at some of the stats when it comes to people who work for the NHS, right? So some ethnicity stats, just to get a general understanding as to you know, what the makeup is looking like. Let me zoom in a little bit. Let me try one more time. Okay, so this is NHS workforce, main facts and figures. In June 2022, over 1.3 million people were employed by the NHS. Out of NHS staff whose ethnicity was known, about 74% were white and about 26% were from ethnic minorities. Okay, so a quarter from ethnic minorities, right? Which kind of makes sense. Almost 70% of professionally qualified clinical staff were white and 16% were Asian. Okay, ethnic minority staff made up about 15% of people in managerial level positions and about 11% of senior managerial level positions. Okay, so that's the general gist. Let's check some stats, okay, by ethnicity. Okay, so we have a good one here. Percentage of NHS workforce in 2022. So we just go off the light blue color, just the general workforce percentage. Asian is 12.5%. We got black at 7.4%. Chinese at 0.6%. We got mixed 2.1%. We got white at 74.3%. I don't know. To me, that kind of aligns with the general demographics, right? In terms of the total UK population. So the summary is that black staff made up 7.4% of the NHS workforce. Okay, we can see that. Let's see another stat. Okay, this is a decent one. Percentage of NHS staff by ethnicity and staff group. Yeah, Radical normally says there is good representation. I would agree with that. You know, whenever I have to go to get some checks or tests done, you know, it seems to be a fair representation in relation to the population of the country, right? Okay, so we got this chart. Let's kind of align with the black group. Let's see how it's going. So professionally qualified clinical staff within Black Britons is 8% of the workforce. Support to clinical staff, so like technicians, at just about 7%. We got NHS infrastructure support, 5.7%. I wonder what that means, infrastructure support. Could that be the like ambulance teams and stuff? In the magenta color, we got other staff of those with unknown classification. So, yeah, that's the highest, you know, almost at 14%. So I guess we're talking about janitors, you know, day-to-day kind of, you know, workers, right? But yeah, generally 7.4%. This was made in 2022. You know, kind of makes sense. You know, it looks kind of accurate to me. Oh, we've got some breakdowns here by ethnicity. I think this will be interesting as well. So let's see the ambulance staff. Over 95% of them are going to be white. Okay. Curiously, mixed is at 1.5%. So, you know, higher mixed, more mixed people than black people on ambulance teams, it seems. We've got doctors, you know, white at over 50%. We've got Asian at about 32%. After that point, we've got black at almost 6%. Okay, so I'm guessing, I don't know if they split it down, but probably more so many Africans as well in that group. Midwives, about 7% white, almost 8% black. Okay, then lesser so in the Asian and mixed groups, 2.5 and 2.1% respectively. Okay, so, you know, worthwhile stats to pay attention to. I'm going to post it into the chat, you know, so you can have a read whenever you need to. But yeah, let me see what you're saying in the chat, because someone in the chat says these are first world problems. We train people to be psychologically weak. So you think these claims of racism within the NHS is overblown? Radical Norman says, both my parents work for the NHS. There is racism, but it flies in all directions. Apparently, it's super tribal in there. I can see that. Every group trying to pull up themselves. Online account says, I know many Filipinos, Nigerians work for the NHS. Yep. Many Filipinos I've known that have moved and pivoted into the NHS. Online account says, why is Chinese separate? Well, in these demographic stats, they tend to split Asian from Chinese. Asian usually is represented by the southern, like Indian, Pakistani, Bangladeshi. Okay, so that's the general stats, and I think a lot of people in the chat are not moved, by the accusations of racism. Which, hey, you're entitled to your opinion, but when I bring people on, feel free to speak about your own personal experiences as well as your opinions as well on this. Okay, but the last article I want to bring up, which I think needs to be brought up because it's something that we kind of talk about a lot, and this was an article I found with regards to quote unquote hair racism. Okay, yes, you heard it, hair racism. And this is in line with the discrimination that some people feel like they suffer within the NHS. Okay, so hair racism, the everyday prejudice Black nursing staff face at work. Okay, it says nurses of African Caribbean heritage discuss workplace attitudes that expose employers and individuals' bias against Black norms of grooming and undermine cultural identities. Okay, Black nurses describe feeling marginalized and even violated at work because of discriminatory attitudes to their hairstyles. Cultural competence is a fundamental nursing value that needs to extend to colleagues as well as patients. Advice on how to combat hair racism in healthcare. Okay, so basically, Black staff are complaining that they are treated differently because of how their hair is groomed, and we spoke about hair in other streams, right? And other things relating to imposing certain kind of stigma and appearance, right? So the article goes on, a nurse manager demands you alter your hairstyle even though it complies with uniform policy. A colleague pulls on your hair to see if it's real. A patient suddenly runs a hand through your hair to get a feel for your hair's texture. These, say the co-authors of 2 research papers, are the everyday experiences of many Black nurses and amount to hair racism. Okay. Expectations to conform to the white norm. Middlesex University nurse lecturers Georgina Cox and Sheila Sobrani can offer numerous examples where Black nurses have been subjected what they call, quote, cultural violence in relation to their locks, braids, cornrows, and other ways they choose to wear their hair. For so long, it's been put forward that to be Black and professional, your hair has to be Eurocentric, says Miss Cox. It's got to be straightened. It's got to conform to the white norm, not what is the Black norm. Who agrees with that in the chat? Press a 1 if you agree with that. If you agree with those expectations, press a 1. It goes on to say, and the Black norm is thick, kinky, curly. If we want our hair straight, we have to process it. There are many, many women, and probably some men too, who have gone bald from these chemical processes in the bid to appear more European and more acceptable. Okay, so this sounds like it's going back to the whole, and I hate to bring it up, the whole argument about weaves, right? So I hear this a lot. Some people claim that they wear weaves because their place of work indirectly implies them too. They feel like they are being discriminated against with their natural hair. So I'm wondering, is this a strong argument to depend on weaves to kind of, follow certain Eurocentric norms. Someone in the chat agrees that, yeah, this is kind of real. Hair racism is real. Someone says online says, I dislike how every real issue of racism is diluted to Black Lives Matter narrative, nothing to do with NHS racism. Okay. Randy Kornumi says, 1, whites have a right to enforce their standards in their nations. Okay. So it continues. Discrimination manifests in attitudes to hair is rarely blatant, they say. Rather, it is cloaked in euphemisms, often found in dress codes that ban hairstyles regarded as extreme, unusual, fad, eccentric, unconventional, distracting, or uncombed. So in other words, black hair is not acceptable. So, I'm not gonna belabor the point, but we understand, and we, most of us being Black Britons, we kind of get, we're kind of familiar with this type of, with these issues. So someone says weave equals self-hatred. So, these are instances where it seems to suggest that the NHS is racist. It's racist, right? From the patient side and on the medical professional side, right? And again, just like I said earlier on, man, before I open the lines, I'm just going to say this, like, again, you can't rely on another person to have your health, as their primary concern. I just don't see that as realistic. I think you are the person who's supposed to be in control of your health. You know yourself better than anyone else. So although, yes, there are medical professionals that will know more about the general anatomy and diseases and medication, you still need to have knowledge of health, right? Because I kind of get, sometimes when I speak about supplements, when I speak about alternative remedies, some herbs, I get, there's amount of people who are just as, they just feel they are just very critical of that, right? And for me, it's just foolish to place all your hope in professionals who, to some degree, might actually have some sort of prejudice against you. And the reason why I can say that is because, hey, individuals, we all have prejudice. We all might think a certain way, and when it comes to the medical industry, it's very sensitive. It's very. I think the ideal medical professional needs to have the ability to overcome certain prejudice, especially when you're treating patients, man. If your prejudice is making you give different people different types of care, that's very dangerous. So for me, we all need to be very proactive about our health, not reactive. Not wait until you feel severe pain. And I'm not perfect in setting up, again, I'm usually mostly healthy, so I'm used to that lifestyle. But hey, like the NHS, very good for routine blood tests, routine health checks. I don't know if anyone has the NHS app, man. The NHS app, like the last blood test that I did, it gave me very in-depth information about my blood, right down to, all the alleles or, every detail you can imagine, right? And this was for free. you know, and this included testosterone and all of that information, you know. So saving me to do some independent or private testosterone check, you know, the NHS is capable of doing this, but it just seems that you might have to be very, again, proactive, maybe even slightly aggressive in demanding that you get certain treatments. And again, we should not forget that we are paying for this service. You know, again, a lot of people might have this this lax mentality towards doctor's decision, but just don't forget that you're paying for this service. You know, it's coming out of your paycheck. It's not a truly free service. So don't feel, you know, you should basically be demanding certain treatments. All right. So the app is the NHS app. Like, just put NHS in your Apple app store, whatever, and you'll see it come up. So basically, when you get any test done in the hospital, all the results will go back to this app. And so you will always be, you always have a record of your results, and it's linked to your NI number, your you know, your patient number, and all of that. You know. So yeah, man. I'm again, just be proactive with your health. Like, don't be afraid. I think this is another thing. There's I've realized a few people who with the so-called doomer mindset who might also be self-defeatists, right? They scoff at alternative remedies because I don't know if they if they even care about improvements like that. You know, when I talk about fasting and training, I mean, like, you know, some people are just not believing in it. I just think, yeah, go to the doctors. They have the remedy. You know? And I don't know about your experiences, but sometimes when I've been to doctors and when I've told them about my problem, in a lot of cases, they have a big chunky book right in front of them, which is like a manual, and they go back to the manual to find out the problem and to find the medication. So basically, they've done what you could have done in your spare time. You know, I'm not saying in all cases, but in some cases, that's what they do, which, you know, it goes to tell you, I don't know if it's about skill level of doctors nowadays, but like, I don't know, that's not a good sign for me. You know, Radical normally says most doctors don't study nutritional science. I can believe that. Because again, another thing, a lot of doctors that I've met are obese. And I hate to say it, especially the African doctors, like Nigerian, Ugandan, big. You know, some of them, you know, those bulging eyes, like kind of cross-eyed and super red. So it, you know, blood pressure is very high. You know, having a fat doc, like, and I'm not trying to be mean, but an overweight doctor is just not a good sign. You know? Yeah, and like Jesse said, alternative medicine affects their bottom line. Absolutely. You know, that's why certain things get banned. You know? You're not allowed certain things. It might just cure all of that ADHD and all of that brain fog, but hey, you're not allowed it because nah, you're gonna have to come through our service first before you can get your remedy. You know? So hey man, do your due diligence, you know, be proactive, read studies. You know, don't just wait until you know, like, don't just wait until you get a pain or problems. You know, a lot of this stuff, you know, the prevention is better than the cure. A lot of this stuff is, you know, you can evade a lot of issues by working out. And I think we kind of saw that during the pandemic. The pandemic in the UK is another talking point in regards to the NHS, right? Because let's not forget who died disproportionately here in the UK during the pandemic. That is another thing. Many African uncles died during that pandemic, but it didn't seem like it was very publicized. Many people who already had issues, who already had underlying health issues, died during the pandemic. High blood pressure, diabetes. A lot of this can be prevented. But anyway, again, it's a quiet night. We're talking about health, so hey, it's not going to draw in a crowd, but that's okay. The link, if you want to talk about your experiences, pinned to the top of the chat. It's also in the description below this video. I mean, primarily, I want to hear about your personal experiences when going to the doctor. Have you sensed or felt any type of racism or prejudice? Or do you even believe the things that I've listed? Do you believe that this is not a sign of racism, for example? Like that, maybe you might think that the NHS is generally bad for everyone. So feel free to state your thoughts. We don't have to come up, so anyone in the back, feel free to calm down. We don't need to. We can just go into avatar mode. Also, I want to know, in your opinion, during the pandemic, did Black people die disproportionately due to racism, due to this racism that some people are trying to highlight in the NHS? Was this the reason? Were people just dismissed, or people just put on some machines with tubes shoved down their throats? Like, people didn't, the sensitivity wasn't there, right? And also, I guess it's good to know what people think can solve this issue, if there is an issue in the NHS. What can fix the problem? Okay, so feel free to jump on if you want to jump on. We do have Sharian 25, who isn't in the UK, but hey, his experiences are valid.
How's it going?
So, 1 second, Sharian. Let me also bring on JM Talks. But yeah, salute to you, Sharian, man. How are you doing this evening? I'm doing good, thank you.
Yeah, I'm doing good. I just worked out. I lift weights, I run, I do a lot of activities that try to be more physical. In my opinion, I don't think the Black people are under medical apartheid in UK because maybe they feel that way in America, because in America disproportionately a lot of Black people are more overweight compared to their counterparts, so like maybe that could be a reason why. And another thing is that like a lot of them, they just refuse to go see a doctor for checkup. Like sometimes people go see a doctor once a month, but they don't see a doctor for like a whole year or so. Not even more than that.
Yeah, funny you say that, man. I heard a similar stat with regards to the dentist. Like a lot of ethnic minorities don't go to the dentist as much as other people, and that obviously that's their fault, right?
Yeah.
So you don't think there is any sort of racism in the healthcare service, at least in your country?
No, but I know the NHS is a very great company and service line in the UK. It definitely provides great service to those that need it, and to those that work there. And from what I've heard, JM worked for the NHS. Yeah.
Okay. Hey, great points. Let's go to JM. Let's hear what JM has to say. Appreciate that, Sharian.
Hey,
JM, man, how you doing this evening?
I'm good. So yeah, Shah is correct. I was actually an advocate with the NHS trying to improve, things regarding, disabilities and so on and so forth. So yeah, Shah is spot on. And yeah, Shah
So
good.
then
Good
that
on the
that
running.
means you're a good. You sorry, that means you're. I was just saying that means you're a good candidate to have to voice your opinion then with regards to being within the NHS, right?
Yep. And I'm gonna hold myself accountable
Mm-hmm.
and say that there is certain mistakes I've made, and I do admit that there is times where I haven't done, checkups like what
Mm-hmm.
Shah is saying. So what Shah is saying is
Why
true.
is that? Do you think? Do you think it? Is there some sort of apprehension? Like I don't know, like maybe the hospital is like foreign to you. You don't want to go, or is it just like, I'm young. It's not that important right now. It's not like
It's it's
pressing.
it's it's multiple factors. Like for me, um,
Mm-hmm.
I'll say like now today, because I actually funny thing is I actually did go and get a checkup and went to the doctor,
Mm-hmm.
and I have I have a registered GP, right?
Right.
And in my opinion, I only could trust my GP, and I explain why.
Mm-hmm.
Because I have autism, right? I have Asperger's syndrome,
Mm-hmm.
and I also have suspected ADHD, which I'm waiting for. It's just like, for example, as a ethnic minority, right? And I'm basically part black, part Asian, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's really about who you know, right?
In
Because
the medical field.
yeah, medical field and
Mm-hmm.
basically connections, right? Because the thing is what you say about empathy is very, very true, right? Because you can go to a different doctor and he may not know something,
Mm-hmm.
but your GP knows something. So it's like the communication between the various services, right?
Mm-hmm.
So first you gotta have a really good GP, right? The GP is really the gateway to the good services, right? And you
Right.
have to know that individual. That's why I stick with one GP, right? Because it's really to build rapport and for them to understand who you are over time,
Mm-hmm.
right? Another thing as well I would say is that do I think the NHS is racist? I would say no, but they're ignorant, right? They don't know a
Ignorant
lot.
to what? Oh,
I
you mean in terms of medical
Yeah,
issues or?
I would say physical and mental, right?
Mhm.
I still think the NHS is a great service. Um, I still think it is, if not one of the best free services in the world, point blank period, right?
Mhm.
Based off what I know.
Mhm.
And there definitely needs to be improvements, but I do admit that it's on us too. There's certain things that we are doing that I would say, and what I mean is like in terms of holding self accountable, right? But I
So
will
when
say
we
that,
when you say that, are we talking about like personal diet? Are we talking about
yep,
combating like the high diabetes rate and
mm,
stroke rate and all of these issues that we kind of genetically are predisposed to?
yeah, and
Mm.
this is why like another thing as well is people don't really value exercise, and I don't feel we would advise like I'll say that the black community values exercise as much, right?
Mm.
And another thing as well is because of maybe the past history they may have had with the NHS. Like even for me, for instance, I've had some bad experiences, right? And it has deterred me to go, right? But I still went back because I had a trusted GP, right?
Mhm.
So what I can really say is that I could understand the fears. I could understand the fears of the black community and so on and so forth and what they go through
Mhm.
because they I have heard really bad experiences and I do have empathy for them in regards to that. I've had my I had a fair few of experiences and it's just not pleasant, right?
Mhm.
But
So do you mean like with doctors that just don't seem interested, or they don't like? Again, that empathy. Again, when we think of doctors, nurses, we think of people who are highly empathetic naturally, right? So it's like they
yeah,
should care, but then I'm sure it's quite traumatic when you come to a doctor and they just don't seem interested, right? It's like
yep,
that is going to be quite traumatic. Even like, with my story that I started this live stream with, it's like it stays with you. You know what I mean? That experience stays with you. Whereas the good experiences with doctors, you don't remember it because that's what you expect.
right. Because, oh, actually, you know what? Sorry, I'll talk about a personal experience, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is there was one time when I had a panic attack, right? I had a really bad panic attack, right? And then I had to call an ambulance, right? I was trying to tell them there's something wrong with me, there's something wrong with me. I'm trying to explain to them what was going on.
Mm-hmm.
And then they put me in a psychiatric ward.
Whoa.
Right? Yep. And this was very, very, and this is what I would say was an event that really deterred me from going into A&E, right? And the thing was, is like, I remember it was, it's hard to talk about. I've talked about this.
Mm-hmm.
And I've explained to NHS like some of the things that they do, right, regarding people with Asperger's syndrome,
Mm-hmm.
because it's like like, for example, this is why I keep banging on about like having certain types of profiles to be put in place before they go for A&E, right? Because I try to explain to them that, oh, I have Asperger's syndrome, right? We went and got a diagnostics test, right? He tried a diagnostics test, all right, because I'm so convincing, right? Or because I am not so-called autistic enough, right?
Mm-hmm.
They thought I had a mental issue, right? And they put me there. And then you had these two people coming around saying that, oh, I'm being lazy and stuff. So I'm like, I have Asperger's syndrome. Like, this is a real thing. I was diagnosed at 3 years old, right?
Mm-hmm.
And even from the steps, I still remember that event from Teo Day where I had to go to therapy and talk about it. And I had to advocate and say, hey, look, like, this is what is going on, in the autistic community and various things of that nature. It is not, it's pain. It is painful. Like, I hear these experiences, even on television, right, where people will come up and they talk about the issues they've had, right?
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, the thing is pointing it to race. It's very difficult, and let me explain why I think it's very difficult. Is because there's so many factors that could be involved. You need the evidence, right, to basically see, like, to know if it was actual racism, right? This is why I'm very very lenient in terms of
Skeptic.
race. Yeah, skeptic. Yeah, skeptic to point into race, and there may be other factors involved. But that's all I got to really say.
To be fair on that, and look, like if people say, I would like to want to believe, people when they're in anguish and they say like they are victims or something, like what, for me, my initial inclination is, yeah, why are they lying about this? But it's like,
Yeah,
I don't know. Some people might fabricate things just to get
exactly.
some advantage. Even some of these strikes that are going on now, it's like from what I knew, and I'm ignorant, but generally speaking, but from what I know, like a lot of like NHS like kind of get a lot of like good money. Even like the service roles get good money, but they're still kind of shutting down critical services just for pay, right? So
Yeah,
it's like, that could be a factor. It could just be a money thing. And again, with my experiences with some doctors, seeing how, seeing their demeanor and seeing how they just don't seem to care, right? It kind of paints a picture of people that are just getting kind of lazy in some regard, and just want a lot for doing very little.
very little. Yep.
you know
Yep. I agree.
Yeah, and
And
let me just
yeah,
say
go
this.
on, Shaw. Sorry.
Hmm.
A lot of people can now, like, call for racism, even non-black people, and say that they've been treated worse than, like, a lot of Indians. Like, the one thing I notice about the area I live in, it's heavily populated with, immigrants, and mostly people that have come from India. Now, like, whenever I go to any local store, it's usually a lot of Indian cashiers. Most of them don't even know how to speak proper English. They don't even know, and it's like, it kind of pisses me off in a way that, like, they come here to, like, for opportunity, but they're not really coming here to invest, or they're coming here to make money for their own community.
Hmm.
But the thing that I have to say about, medical, like, medical aspect about is, is NHS racist towards, black people? I don't think so, and the reason why I say is that because, maybe in the sense that there is prejudice that, maybe they can't get certain jobs compared to other qualified people who are not of that race, but that doesn't necessarily mean they're racist. I've seen a lot of black doctors work, and, sometimes, you never know what they can do. Like, anyone can give the wrong diagnosis of an illness without actual,
Hmm.
experience.
Okay, but let me ask, I guess, both of you this, and again, we can make this a more conversational part of the show. Like, do you not believe that systemic racism is a thing? Like in either the UK or Canada, do you not believe that it might make sense that there is a history of some legacy of racism for the fact that there basically was a system in place that was racist?
Okay, first of all, systematic racism, like, systematic racism is always going to exist. People just have to deal with it. And another thing is, I hate
No, no,
I,
no. But that's a different thing, though. Like, first, you need to acknowledge if it exists or if it doesn't exist. So we need to understand if it exists, what it looks like, and what is it you want people to just deal with.
even,
Because
let me just say this, even a lot of these rich black celebrities, they cry for racism, within their own, community. Wait, I hear an ambulance.
that's funny.
Who's
Wow,
wait, who's, like, that's
it's
so
not me.
weird.
Oh, good. It must be me. Oh my god, my heart, my heart.
I'm like, wow, man, like,
That
it's
came just in
crazy.
time, but it's all right. But
Yeah. What I was saying is that, like, no one is meant to be feeling a certain way or should be entitled. I know a lot of people that feel a certain way. A lot of people that usually complain about health problems are usually, like, older folks, or, someone with serious, like, issues. But as it pertains to that, it's no issue. Like, let me just say this: a lot of black, like, a lot of what's it called, the Asian people,
mhm.
they're the ones that are usually, the ones that outlive every group in terms of, like, mortality rate, and, like, a lot of Japanese people. And I found out one of the reasons why they live a very long life is because they eat clean, and they try to avoid eating, like, fatty or sugary diets and stuff. And, they put themselves in a very safe, calorie deficit, diet, in which they consume less than the average thing. And it's, to me, I think that, black people in America are the ones that really cry about racism. I don't think it's a big problem in UK. A lot of black British people, or, people of Caribbean and, West African heritage in the UK, most of them, they're actually doing well for themselves. But, they share similar stories to black people in America, but they don't cry and complain. They don't create these activists, like,
um, but okay. Let me ask this just to kind
yeah.
of pinpoint. I read Serena Williams' issue that she had with her pregnancy, and that kind of aligns with many other stories where black women feel like the health provider has suggested that, hey, what they are going through is not too bad, maybe it's all in their mind, maybe they have a assume that they have a higher pain threshold. So,
Yes.
I mean, do you agree that that might be in existence, or do you disagree with that?
Sometimes
Sure.
sometimes when people worry about their illnesses and worry about, if they're gonna die the next day, or if they're gonna, you know something's gonna happen to them quick, their anxiety is just gonna get worse. It's not gonna go away.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why, you gotta let, all that stress and anxiety go away if you have an illness. I know a lot of guys. I know a lot of white guys, they have cancer, like, but they still survive and make it past it. Like, they have cancers and they still survive it and live a very long life. And it's not because of the fact that they're scared of having cancer, or they just accept it and they move on with it. They don't just.
So you think there's some delirious kind of issue with those people in those situations, that you think mainly it's in their head and they're just kind of overblowing the situation? Is that what you kind of align with? Okay.
Yeah.
Can I interject?
Yeah, sure.
All right. To answer your question, Falcon, regarding did the NHS or the health service have history of systematic racism in the medical system? Of course. In my opinion, it's an undeniable fact, and I'll explain why. The reason why is because there's three ways you could look at it in regards of racism, right? First off, you have racism of ignorance, right? You have racism of, let's say, hatred, right? And we could say there is racism, or let's say unintentional racism, right? Now, I will go across the fist of ignorance and maybe and hatred, right? Now, this is not me painting the whole country in the brush. I think that's just done, right? You have good people, you have bad people, right? But if I said to you as an institution, right, at that time when, let's say, the first black people were coming in, right, into this country, of course they don't know enough, because they're not exposed. They ain't exposed to they weren't exposed to many minorities at the time. So how are they gonna know? You only come the only way you come, unless there's only a few ways you can really know something, is if you're there with it, or you have the data to back up, or the evidence to back that up, right? Now, if we only make we gotta be honest, if black people only make 4% of the population now, yeah, and then we look back at history and that went down by down by 3, maybe even 2 or 1%, right? They ain't gonna know nothing. What they gonna know? There's this, I'll be honest, like, there's certain people I'm not exposed to, right? And I'm ignorant because I don't know about them either. So how are you gonna have a whole institution? Of course, you're gonna have a whole institutional systematic racism in the past, or the history of the past. Now, I don't know, but in the past, of course, because you ain't gonna know enough. Only now, I only just heard recently that black people have a different bit, like black people of Asian have a different BMI to reach a healthy weight.
That was another key point, because we had BMI being racist, and a lot of black people are consistently over the 30 mark. That will make them, I think, is overweight, leading into obesity. But yeah, that's a key point.
Falcon, I have a funny story to tell you. Yesterday, I was, going to dollar store just to, do my usual, shopping. I seen this one black chick. She's probably a bit taller than me, and she was very obese. Like, as soon as I saw her, like, I just walked. Like, I just kept my distance against her, because usually, like, when I see someone like that, I just want to keep a distance. It's not that I have anything against it. She looked really obese and overweight, to the point that everyone was, like, laughing and stuff. And then, and I didn't. It was just socially awkward, you know, like, and to me,
How would you feel? How would you feel, sure, if me, I'm like of the athletic build, very muscular, low body fat. How would you feel if I walked past you because you were not on my physicality level, and I basically didn't want to get next to you? I, laughed and
no, no,
pointed
no,
fingers at you. How
no,
would you feel if that was if I did that to you?
to me, if I was overweight,
Yeah, if I pinpointed your issues, your physical issues, and I kind of want to, and I went on a live stream tomorrow, and I spoke about you, seeing you on the street, like, how would you feel if that was turned back to you?
I would just laugh, you know, I wouldn't really care.
Okay,
Can I interject?
sure.
Okay. Now, I've been overweight, I've been
Mhm.
obese, and I've also been slim, right? So I've been all versions you can think of, right? As a fat person, right,
Mhm.
there is going to be anxiety, point blank, period, right?
There's
You're
gonna
going to,
be some people are just gonna body shame you, you know, like,
right, can I finish?
yeah.
Okay,
Mhm.
right? You're gonna have negative feelings, right? This is why this is why whenever I see someone, I don't try to judge them, right?
Mhm.
Because in the end of the day, you don't know what they're living, you don't know what they're going through, and in the end of the day, life is so complex. You ain't gonna understand. You ain't gonna know what. If it, like, for example, there's so many reasons why people are overweight. Now,
Mhm.
what I will say is you got to hold yourself accountable for your own health. Point blank,
Mhm.
period. Pointing the finger at yourself, right? I point the finger at myself, and I say, hey, you know what? Sometime I got to do some changes, you know, because this ain't health isn't something to play around with, right?
Mhm.
Because in the end of the day, it's your life or death. Like, for example, I saw an interview. It was on Vlad. It was on Vlad TV. Michael J. White, and he was talking about, health is really the only thing you can somewhat control, right?
Mhm.
And even if you do try and control it, there's just certain people just unlucky. This is just the so-called genetic lottery.
Okay, but
Mhm.
what if I was to say that, you know, wealth was also important too? You need enough money to live and survive. People value money over their health nowadays, you know, especially in the Western society, because that's how things are. You know,
Okay.
not everyone has the time to take care of their health at the moment. They have things to prioritize. They have, you know, jobs to go to, and stuff. They don't just have time to, you know, they don't just have time to sit around and do nothing. And, you know, like, it astonishes me because my sister has health problems herself. She has diabetes, she has high blood pressure, and she has all that, and it's mostly from being angry, keep on yelling. And I told you, like, sometimes the way you react, if you're an angry person and you keep yelling at someone, or if you're someone that, you know, keeps doing drugs like smoking or cigars, or, you know, drinking alcohol all the time, what do you think's going to happen? Your health is going to decline.
I agree. I
Hmm.
agree.
Mhm.
Yeah, but, you
And
know, Falcon, I have a question. You know, the
No,
situation
one sec.
regarding,
We're kind of deviating from the point.
yeah.
When you talking about money, I always think that you're gonna create a scenario where, for example, a rich person making fun of a person for being poor, because that was the comparison to, the instance you brought up yesterday, where you saw an obese person and you felt the need to kind of distance yourself, and you
No,
felt
I
the
didn't
need to
mean,
almost want to point the finger.
no, I
But
didn't,
many people are poor, and there are many reasons why people are in poverty.
no, like,
So my point is that we need some empathy. Like, and this also goes to the question about whether people feel they're being treated with this in a discriminatory way. Like,
mhm.
if we keep having this mentality of dismissing people's reality, oh, their racism, for example, is being overblown, or people like that. When the empathy goes, and you don't want to believe people and their issues, and this is symptomatic of sometimes some of these internet spaces, you know, people are so on one side of the fence with a certain mentality, like that will just cause a problem, you know. So with the example or the instance you came across, you know, empathy is key. I wouldn't laugh at someone, or I wouldn't try to distance myself with someone who was obese, you know, because
Yeah.
I have empathy. I would not, someone who is homeless and is in a dire situation or poorer than me, I'm not gonna distance myself from them. I'm not gonna treat them like, you know, they are not human beings. Empathy is very key when it comes to some of these issues.
Can I interject? Sorry.
Sure, Jim.
Just sticking on topic regarding empathy and so on and so forth. Like, I have a friend. I'm not going to say his name. He's very, very. He's bigger than me, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you know, again, empathy, right? There's times where he gets shamed. People try to shame him, and I told him, look, shame is not the. It's not the. If someone's shaming you, they don't care about you, right?
Mm.
And the thing is like with shame, all it does is just make you worse. Because people got to understand is like when it comes to, you know, health, weight, it's mental and physical,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's both, right? And sometimes you like if you got the time, just try and even if it's not a full picture, right? Try to at least guide them in a positive direction in regards of how they could change themselves. Like that's just what I had to do with all my friends. I said, look, you know, I got it when I got him in the gym, and you know, he, you know, I told him everything I knew I could at the time when I was younger, when I was like in my 20s, going to the gym with him, right?
Mm.
And from then, he managed, even though he may have not lost the weight, he may not have lost all the weight or whatever. At least he has a chance, you know. At least he can go there, he can train, you know how to box, you know how to lift weights, right? All of these things, you know. So you can at least give them a chance that they can
Right.
at least they could build from, you know.
Right.
Because
No. I wasn't
like,
trying
can I finish? Right? And empathy is so important. I can't stress this enough, right? And even I could be hypocritical sometimes and say, oh, I'm unempathetic. But
No, bro.
I do take time to listen to people's problems,
Yeah, but
right?
after
And
this is a
wait,
tough world. Not
One
everyone's
sec,
gonna.
one sec, sure. Let JM finish, and then you can jump in, man. It's a light panel, so you can all get your say. Let
yeah.
JM just
So
finish what he has to say.
you know, I do take time and listen to people's problems, but it's in the end of the day is what are they willing to do about it? Only people can only could do so much, you know.
Right, that's
Like
true.
people got to help themselves. Also, you can give them the information, and that's what you can really do, you know, in
Yeah.
certain cases. Because again, you got to point the finger at you, and you got to say, "Hey, what am I doing?"
Okay,
You
but
know.
let me just say this.
But yeah, I'm done.
Yeah.
Yeah, go on, Sean.
I've two things to say. Yeah, you can be empathetic and have like feelings towards someone, you know, whether if you feel sorry for them, but you know, not everyone is gonna feel back. You know, like not and you
Feel
know,
what? Feel back or bad?
like not they're not gonna have the same kind of emotion that same empathy that you have for them. They don't have that back. You know, they just don't have feelings. That's how some people are. Some people just don't care. And another thing I have to say about N
But
Sudan.
no.
No, no,
You say something.
someone,
No. You say
someone.
no. You say something and then you move on. We need to uncover
No,
what you're
no,
saying. Are you saying just because someone might not have the same level of empathy that you have, that therefore you should not show them that same empathy? Is that what you're saying, or I'm
no.
trying to understand what you're saying?
I'm trying to say is that like not everyone is gonna feel sorry for you in this world. You know, you either suck it up or you like, you know, do your best, like a thing about empathy is that not everyone's gonna show empathy for what happened to you, especially when they don't even know you like that. And another thing I have to say, someone said, oh, my sister has diabetes because she doesn't have diabetes because she's a very angry person, like she had to take so many medications just to be, normal and stuff. And when someone says stuff like that, like, especially when I don't even know you, I just get really angry, like, because
Okay,
yeah,
we don't need to get angry. But what this
yeah,
person is also saying is that sometimes you have a speech impediment, for example, yeah.
no, I
And
don't have it.
I see. Sometimes you might slow your speech. I see a lot of people in the chat that really want me to get rid of you and not come and have your say. But hey, I'll let you have your say because why not? You create a show. You have your own opinion. You are a living human being. But
I
that
don't have a
there is an
speech
empathy.
impediment.
There is an empathy there, isn't there? So it's like
No,
your worldview. If we all had or abided by your worldview, it won't be a good place for you and for
I,
other people who might have some issues.
No, what I was trying to say was that, like, not everyone is gonna feel sorry for you just because you have so and so condition. Like, maybe they've been through the same shoes. I'm saying that, like, in contrast, like, not everyone's gonna feel the same way. Like, we're not robots. That's why, like, that's what scares me now. Like, now they have open AI and, like, artificial intelligence with Chat GBT and everything, and like that's what scares me. Like, if it's gonna be used in a way to, like, replace people. As soon as someone said that, like, it's
Well, there's
not.
nothing to fear. There's nothing to fear,
Yeah,
man.
but
There's
like,
nothing. There's nothing to fear if we human beings behave in the same cold manner of a robot. If we act like that, why fear the robot? If you want to treat people in a very mechanical, cold way, then hey, it's the same thing, right?
but no, let me just say this. In some, like, North African and Middle East countries, they banned, open artificial intelligence and robotics.
Okay, this is not an AI stream, so I'm not going to deviate into that.
Yeah.
I'm
But
afraid.
yeah, getting more onto topic. Yeah, I don't think the NHS is like really a racist place for Black people. If some Black people are actually working and doing successful and making enough money in that health service institute, then they're doing well for themselves. Those that usually cry about racism and that and how unfair things are the ones that don't do anything, the ones that just sit around, and the ones that always wait for some celebrity or someone to, like, speak on behalf of issues. Like, for example, LeBron James, he's a good example of some rich billionaire who tries to sound as if he's, like, woke or pro-Black, but like he has no idea what it's like to be in the ghetto or anything, especially when he himself doesn't even donate his money to any charity or anything like that. He just tries to use it to buy more mansions, cars, and
Okay.
and things. So, like, not everyone's gonna feel the same way of racism just because you're of the
Okay.
Blackness.
Okay. It's an hour and 30 minutes in, so I'm gonna close it. It's a quiet one, and it's kind of
Yeah.
off key topic. No
Wait,
one's that interested in
Falcon,
it.
I might.
So JM, we're gonna go with closing thoughts, and then SP, you can go with closing thoughts. Just to round off the topic, in your opinion, like, is the NHS racist towards Black British people, or is it something else that we need to kind of consider? So, who would like to go first?
I'll say this. So before I go, first closing thoughts. I'll say there does need to be improvements in the NHS regarding understanding racial disparities, right? Because everybody's different, right?
Right.
Different cultures, different race, various things of that nature. That is, and I have to admit, that's a very difficult job. And I do have empathy for the NHS, and I do have empathy for the people that are involved in it. And I'll say that if I was to say if it was racist, it most likely be because of ignorance and just not knowing, right? Because again, we're only a minority. you only could really get information based off the experiences and the data that you have, right? So I can't. This is why I can't really accuse. This is why I can't really say, oh, it's institutionally racist, right? I would say that it's really that there's just not enough information and there's not enough. There's a minority, and obviously, right, because of where we live, which is a majority, majority white country, there is going to be things that people just not going to know, right? And I respect the people who are trying to make a difference, and I respect the people that are trying to give their perspective in regards of how it improved the NHS, regardless of what culture, creed, or religion, because the next generation that comes up, right, they're gonna benefit from that. There's certain services that I didn't have access to at my age, right, and now there is now. So it's always self-improvement is always a continuous thing, right? And this is why I just, I can't really call NHS institutionally racist or systematically racist, but I will say that there's ignorance there, and I will say that if there's a part of racism, and the way I know this is literally my mother, right? She worked there. She told me all the experiences she gone through, right? And from thinking that, black people swing from trees and all of this stuff, right? This is really people just coming out of their doors staring at you. You're saying it's what they don't want a black nurse to watch them, right? This is a very real thing that happened in many years, right? Many years ago, maybe about 50, maybe about 30 years ago. These are the type of things that them nurses had to deal with. And I know they ain't lying, because I got a whole family tell me all the experiences that they have had, but that's my closing thoughts.
Hey, JM, man, I appreciate you coming up, man, especially with your intel. So salute to you, bro. Have a good one.
Will do.
Peace. And last but not least, Sharon, what's your closing thought with regards to black people experiencing racism in the medical field, in your opinion?
Let me just say this. It's just like, BS. I think it's actually the medical field is actually doing a lot better to help black people, and those that whine and complain about racism, nothing's gonna change. I'm just gonna say that, racism itself is now like getting, when people use that word nowadays, a lot of it is just getting it out of context and stuff, and a lot of white people nowadays, they just shake their head anytime they hear a black person complain about that. I've seen it many times, because in a way you're trying to make them feel bad for what their ancestors did, and I think it's wrong when they try to teach about slavery and stuff like that in history class, because nobody wants to hear about someone getting castrated and stuff that's like giving them that guilt feeling for what
Okay. So to summarize, you don't believe racism is in play in 2023?
I'm not saying that it doesn't exist. All I'm saying is that those that whine and complain about racism, especially a lot of these like rich black celebrities, athletes, and celebrities, when they try to like make a movement, and then you try, and then people try to buy it, that's what bothers me the most, because like they're rich, they have the power, they have everything to change. Like LeBron James, to me, he seems like someone that's like a very greedy, like he can help.
Okay. Remember, it's closing thoughts, so we're gonna have to wrap it. But
it was a great talking to you, Falcon, man. Have a good night.
Okay, Sharon, I appreciate you coming on. I appreciate your viewpoints as well. So have a good one.
You too, man. Bye.
Okay, appreciate it. Okay, guys, with that being said, it's a nice, quiet talking point. But again, I felt that it was very important to have dedicate at least one live stream about the NHS, the healthcare that we receive in the UK. put down your thoughts in the comments below underneath the video. What do you think? Is the NHS racist towards Black British people, or are people just complaining and overblowing any of these situations? Right? What do you think? Let us know in the comment section below. Please do feel free to like the video if you found it enjoyable. If you want to see more of these type of streams, I know they're quite rare. No one really dedicates the same amount of time into them these days, but you know, your kind of review of these type of streams is necessary. So I know if you want to hear more of these streams. But hey, in my humble opinion, man, be proactive with regards to your health. Always be researching, always be looking out for studies, you know, taking your health into your own hands, you know. And I'm not trying to sound like some saint, because, you know, I'm not perfect myself, but ever since working within the fitness industry, which I'm thankful for, and I might have to dedicate a stream to that, you know, it's opened my eyes, you know, even on that level, to nutrition, supplementation, diet, you know. And I'm thankful because that information has stayed with me well into the future, you know. You know, I don't age in a crazy way. I don't have a crazy weight. You know, I've generally had the right knowledge, particularly that fit my kind of personal profile, to maintain a fairly healthy life. You know, touch wood, that remains, you know. So yeah, just be proactive. Someone in the chat is saying, online account saying, how can I mail you? Hey, if you need to mail me, falconblizzak@gmail.com. That's my quote unquote business account. If you need to message me with regards to like video recommendations, etc., information. Okay, appreciate that. And with that being said, you know, I want to thank everyone for coming through. Catch you in the next stream next Tuesday. I might also start doing these Sunday streams again to get that up and happening. Sunday self-refinement streams, so look out for that. But with that being said, it's Falcon Blizzak out. Peace.